Well, I'm here in London with Robert Trefus, and Robert is the Chief Marketing Officer of Gucci. Robert, thank you very much indeed for joining us as part of the BrandZ leadership series. Robert, I think you're unbelievably privileged to be the CMO of an iconic brand like Gucci. Let's start, I suppose, at the beginning, which is, I suppose, how would you define what the Gucci brand is?
Well, Gucci, I mean, if we think back to the founding moment, let's say, Gucci in 1921, was inspired by an experience he'd had at the Savoy Hotel working as a bellboy, to go back to Italy and make beautiful products that expressed a certain creativity. And that is at the heart of what Gucci stood for all these 95 years. It's this sense of a quality product that improves your lifestyle. And today, of course, here we are in an era where the digital revolution is impacting everything that we do in our lives. Understanding how a brand like Gucci can be relevant to a new audience, the millennial consumer, always though providing an experience, a lifestyle experience. So this notion of an individual contemporary experience based on luxury and quality products.
And how do you sort of tease apart, in a sense, the product versus the experience, and I suppose ultimately the combination of the two that makes it very special and unique?
Yes, I mean, it's an interesting question, and obviously you have the inherent values of Gucci, which are the fact that it was born in Italy, made in Italy is still a value to fashion and luxury consumers, of high value, I would say. Quality in the fact that we have generations of craftsmen and women who have allowed Gucci to be successful. These are what I would call the inherent values of the brand that are well understood and well perceived. And then you have the external values, let's say, the ones that are more about an experience. More about what it means to be a contemporary lifestyle today, or to offer a contemporary lifestyle. So I think teasing apart is it's an interesting way of looking at it. You have those values that this brand has to ensure are maintained in terms of quality, craftsmanship, service, and those that are expressed on an ongoing basis by the creative director, an understanding of what is a contemporary lifestyle and how Gucci remains relevant to fashion and luxury customers today.
I mean, you can obviously play in many aspects, as you do, across, I suppose, the spectrum of what people want to purchase, what they want to experience. And obviously, as you do that, more and more people are involved in the creation of products, creation of thinking, creation of execution.
Yes.
How do you imbue them with sort of Gucci-ness,
yes,
so that every single aspect
yes,
of the process comes together in something that is inherently
yes,
part of the brand as opposed to very disparate?
Yeah, no, and I think for a fashion brand that's a particularly relevant question, because by definition fashion is about change. It's about constant change. So as someone who's responsible for ensuring consistency in brand messaging, let's say, and consistency across touch points, understanding how to create that consistency, that fil rouge, is very important. So in a certain way, the idea is to ensure that the creative director has a team of individuals around him, Alessandro Michele, who are able to support the expression of the creative vision in a consistent way across the touch points. So if you think today about advertising, about social media, about visual display in stores, there is a common thread because there are individuals who are part of a core team who are working absolutely in lockstep with the creative director to ensure that consistency and that coherence.
You've been in the fashion business and the luxury business for a number of years. I'd imagine when you first started, you as a brand manager were pretty much in control of all the various different levers. You mentioned sort of today's sort of social sphere,
Yes.
where, in a sense, content is created by users.
Yes.
How do you manage that? I suppose what could be called an inherent conflict of,
Yeah.
in a sense, wanting to curate the look and the feel, but then also being able to use social networks where people do their own curation and creating.
Yeah, again, a very relevant question, as you say. I mean, when I started my life in brand management, there were many less touch points than there are today. And I think it's that fragmentation and that proliferation of touch points that it's exciting, because I think the millennial generation likes the notion of a two-way conversation. So it's not so much today about a brand speaking at a consumer. It's very much a dialogue. And as you say, that dialogue means that there is a certain level of allowing for creative expression to go both ways. Now, we, as most luxury fashion brands, are controlling in every sense, and we certainly like to ensure that the message and the inspiration is conveyed in a very controlled way. But at the same time, there are examples where we give the power, let's say, to our customers and our clients to get involved in that creative process. In fact, we launched a few months ago an initiative which is called Guccigram. It's based on Instagram, where we allowed customers to, or let's say users to, express creativity using iconic symbols of Gucci. And it was in relation to a new product that we were launching. And it was remarkable the amount of creative expression came in that has been also inspiring to our creative director. So that two-way conversation can actually work in a brand's favor, because it can, first of all, allow you to build a more meaningful engagement with your customers, and at the same time can occasionally also inspire the direction of the brand.
You said that the genesis of the Gucci was, I suppose, an artisanal sort of understanding of design and creation.
Yes.
If you take that, I suppose, to what we're seeing today, the Internet of Things,
Yes.
Everything becoming smart, maybe even to the extent that all clothing is going to be connected in one form or another. How do you think the luxury market will be able to play in this new connected world?
Yes. People often say that the greatest luxury in life is time. And interestingly, I think we're all faced with an enormous challenge today, because there isn't time. There isn't time to respond to emails. There isn't time to check Snapchat. There isn't time to post Instagram. But you know that living life today requires you to a certain degree to be doing all those things. So I think that there is an interesting friction, and a good friction, let's say, that luxury brands have an opportunity to play with, let's say. Luxury is about, I think, time, it's about quality, it's about values that are not necessarily instantaneous. So I think in the coming year and years, there is going to be an interesting dialogue about what makes sense. Is it fast fashion or slow fashion? Is it fast food or slow food? And what do you expect when you think about luxury? And going back to your point, when Gucci set up his business, those values of craftsmanship, of quality materials, of time to create something were fundamental. And those are not going to disappear overnight. So I think the challenge for a luxury brand is to ensure that you can maintain those values, but at the same time take advantage of the, let's say, the digital revolution, and be using the instantaneous nature of the world that we live in today in a complementary way to the luxury values.
Do you think that luxury brands have a value of sort of the pregnant pause, in a sense, have the space to be able to do that, whereas in a sense the fast fashion brands don't? I mean, they've got to be on the pulse the whole time.
I do, and I think, remember, the fast fashion brands are 100% inspired by the luxury brands. I mean, they copy them. So They don't necessarily have to spend too much time being creative because they're copying the creativity of others. But I think that the luxury consumer is interested in the notion of quality and creativity. Now, of course, it may be that they want to be able to go online at 1 a.m. and order something that is delivered the next day, and that is part of the digital solution. But the digital solution is a way, as I say, of complementing the luxury experience. I don't think it replaces it. It needs to complement it.
I mean, you've seen some sort of ups and downs in the luxury market. In the eye of the global recession, and then coming back to stabilise.
Yes.
And I suppose you've also seen a great sort of shift in where the balance of sales are. How do you see the luxury market at the moment? I suppose in particular, the context of a rebalancing China.
Well, I think, as you quite rightly say, there have been a lot of dynamics over the last 10 to 15 years that have impacted luxury in terms of tourism flows, terrorism, the emergence of key markets. So the global dynamics are something that a brand in this sector has to pay attention to very carefully. Certainly, probably the long-term, the most significant long-term change, let's say, is the growth and the importance of China for every brand, particularly for luxury. And I think the important consideration there is the understanding of how you engage with a consumer whose sophistication level is moving rapidly, more rapidly than probably any other similar experience. If we think about Japan as a luxury market, I think the evolution of the luxury consumer in Japan was significantly longer than the one that we're seeing in certainly first and second tier cities in China. And of course, what we have to do is make sure that we're keeping pace with that growing sophistication, not just in China, but also in the rest of the world, because the tourism flow of Chinese consumers now all around the world in every major city is such that we need to be prepared to be able to respond and offer the services that those customers are expecting all around the world.
So what challenges does that put from a creation perspective, and also I suppose from an execution perspective, around the world in your stores, making sure that, I suppose the basics that people in the stores who actually speak
exactly.
Mandarin.
Yeah, no, exactly. So at the most basic level, it is that finding and ensuring that we have the ability to offer sales associates who can engage in Mandarin, but also understanding that in terms of the way that you're communicating, in other words, the platforms. We know that the most well-known social media in the world today, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, they're not in the YouTube, they're not there. So understanding what are the platforms you should be on, how you should be offering services on those platforms, and really understanding the evolution of a consumer who's come from a very different place, not just in terms of the understanding of luxury, and therefore no frame of reference for heritage. The reality is that heritage probably means not too much to a millennial Chinese consumer. They're much more interested in the product, in the experience. So really understanding those dynamics to make sure that the way you're communicating, what you're communicating, how you're communicating are all relevant for that consumer.
And does that now have an impact on the designers who work in the business? Are you again on this basis, are you employing more Chinese designers?
We have I think a very eclectic design team from all over the world. So I wouldn't necessarily say that we're going to one particular market to recruit from that market per se. I think that the world today, and I think that what Gucci stands for in the contemporary world, is a multi-ethnic experience, whether we're hiring or we're serving customers. I think, for us, people today probably, the luxury consumers that we're reaching, probably define themselves more in terms of the cities that they're living in than necessarily their nationalities. And they're moving very, very fluidly between, Asia, Europe, America. So that's a very interesting dynamic.
And for those types of consumers, are you trying to create an experience in the store which is the same in all of those markets now, or are you starting to move to sort of slight nuances?
Certainly, yes. I mean, I think the idea of a homogeneous experience is not the solution for where we're going now and in the future. And that means that the stores themselves can differ, slightly, being respectful of maybe a building that you're in or of the city that you're in. And then at the same time, the idea of some exclusive products that may only be available in that particular city. So yes, I think some localization, let's say, of the experience is an important thought for the future.
Early on in your career, you worked with Eddie Shah, who revolutionised the newspaper industry in the UK, and probably as a result of that around the world. So you've seen a lot of transformational change and been involved in a lot. From a marketing director's perspective, what transformational changes do you see on the horizon for marketing in the next 5 years?
Well, as I said, I think that the challenge and the opportunity is this sense of fragmentation that with digital, today, to understand which are the right platforms, which are the delivery mechanisms, as it were, that are really engaging with your target. That is a very sophisticated decision that needs to be made based upon a lot of different metrics. So I think that the job of a marketeer today is it's a much more complex, ROI-driven job. But at the same time, because digital is, let's say, much more metric-based, I think it gives one an opportunity to be much more scientific as you're following your intuition, to actually test that intuition in a very scientific way.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I suppose one gets the impression that the luxury part of the marketplace is still very much driven by, I suppose, the huge sort of figures of maybe the people who've started the houses,
yes,
or the creative directors.
Yeah.
Not a great deal of science, but
yeah,
a lot more art. So it's interesting to see that, in a sense,
well,
the two are coming together, even in the luxury part of the market.
Let's say that one would never, today one has to be playing both ends of the game, let's say. And I think that finding that good chemistry, let's say, between the creative sensibility, the creative vision, and let's say the business imperative, finding that harmony is the sweet spot that allows you to be truly successful. Because, sitting here at Millwood Brand, the essence of successful brands is to give meaning and to add value in terms of the meaning. And the role of the creative director is fundamental to that. So being able to understand how you can bring the two together is the secret recipe.
And in that world, do you think the brands are going to become more important or less important over time?
I think you yourselves have demonstrated that in the hardest times, the brands, the strong brands, are the ones that come fighting back the quickest, and we've seen that in our sector in particular in recent years with the world economic crisis and 9/11 and so on. So I think the strength of brand is fundamental, and people like to feel that they belong. That hasn't changed. If you think about social media today, it's about community, it's about tribes, and people who are in communities, they share experiences, and so I think the strength of brands will absolutely be key as we move forward.
So one last question then, Robert, and you can't answer Gucci for this. So what brand has had the most impact in your life? It might be something you remember as a child,
yeah.
It might be something that's influenced your decision making going forward.
There's one brand that resonates with me a huge amount. I happen to be a runner, and I have always admired Nike. I think the way that they execute and the way they enhance their brand value has been incredibly consistent. And in my life, whether I'm running or not, I often think of just doing it.
Great, Robert. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us.
You're welcome.